this video, we're going to read the article, Slavery in Ancient Africa. As you listen, make sure you're following along with the text and that you pay attention to the words and sentences that I underline. They will help you as we answer the questions later. Here we go. Often when we think of African slavery, we think of the African slaves in the United States in the 1800s. However, slavery was common throughout much of the world for most of human history. This was also true of ancient Africa, where slavery existed in most of the ancient empires and civilizations on the continent. Slavery played an important role in the history of ancient Africa. As many as one-third of the people living in many African societies were slaves. Slaves were considered the lowest caste or level of society, but their rights and roles varied depending on the society where they lived. There were a number of different ways that a person could become a slave in ancient Africa. Many slaves were captives of war. These slaves were often sold to faraway lands in order to keep them from escaping back home. Sometimes people became slaves for a period of time in order to pay off debts, or they were forced into slavery for committing a crime. Also, children born to slaves became slaves. Slaves worked a variety of jobs, including farm labor, household servants, and carrying goods. Some slaves worked under harsh conditions in the salt mines of North Africa. These slaves had short life expectancies. Getting sent to the salt mine to work was like getting a death sentence. Slaves were treated differently depending on the society and region where they were enslaved. In some societies, slaves were treated well. They had rights and were often treated like members of the family. In other societies, slaves were used like property. And were beaten when they didn't work hard enough. So there you go with the article. Make sure that you're paying attention to all those red underlined places because that will help you answer your questions.